And you're listening to iTalk 106.7 FM, the voice of the mountain. I'm your host, Janine Ford. We're continuing on, and we have Walt Blackman, our new District 7 representative. Not brand new, but you're going again now, right, Walt?
Yes, ma'am. First, thanks for having me on. And second, I do appreciate all the supporters that came in and voted for me again. We looked at the numbers again, and we are about 19,000 plus of votes that we were able to pull in. So it's a team win for the district and our family, and we just really do appreciate that support.
That is awesome. So you're going to be at it again, working again hard for our District 7, along with David Cook, who got in there. So we have two good representatives that have been down at the state before, and so you can hit the ground running, correct?
Yes. I do believe that since Dave Cook was the transportation chair some time ago when he was in before, he'll probably assume that position again as the chairman of that committee. I'm sure he'll be on our rural committee because that's filled with rural legislators, to include myself. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see what type of legislation he's going to run this year or next year.
Yeah. And what kinds of things do you want to work on?
Well, as I did last year, I want to make sure that I'm able to pull more resources and dollars into the district. We still have a lot of issues up there. We need to make sure that we're able to get people back to work, that we're able to make sure that the cost of living is driven down, that we take a good look at the bonding aspects of some of these windmills that are up. And making sure that our border is more secure. And we need to take another look at our election process because of the bill that President Trump proposed. It's stalled in the House and the Senate about the voting. We need proper ID and so on and so forth. We need to take another look at that because he has the constitutional right to be able to do that. Some people say he doesn't have that. However,
we know people want that, like the Save America Act. We know people want that. It's like an 80-20 issue, and to voter ID, all the things. And I will say too, we really need some help. Not just statewide, in our own county, and I have a show tomorrow that's going to be about the problems we had in our election just in this primary in Navajo County.
Yeah.
I mean everything from, the 9,000, mailed out ballots didn't get to the people, then the keys on one of the drop boxes left, the also thing that happened in Heber with the 2024 ballots showing up there in Heber. And, and then now there's reports coming in from a lot of the outside areas, a couple of places on the reservation where they were refusing to take ID for people to vote. I mean, I just don't understand how this has gotten so sloppy,
Yeah. So, again, and my brain just kind of, took a dump there. The Save America Act,
right?
That is the bill that we're talking about. That is stalled at the federal level. There's a couple of things that could happen with this. That's not good. If the bill is not passed, and the Republicans lose the House or the Senate, we're going to see the Democrats. They are going to probably run a bill that does the opposite of what the Save America Act does, and to be able to move legislation to allow folks that are not legal to vote in our federal elections. You'll probably see something like that because they were so close to losing this. If the bill does pass, and we lose the House and the Senate, and they'll run that bill up to the president. We know he'll say no on something like that.
Right,
However,
right, and that's federal. We're aware of that, and it's in most states. But we already have the version of the Save America Act in Arizona, and
we do,
people
yes.
were not using that in our county. So that's what we're going to be talking about on tomorrow's show.
And believe it or not, I was one of the authors of that bill. It went all the way
Oh,
to the Supreme
good,
Court.
good,
Yeah,
good,
yeah. That
very good.
you need state ID and all that. So
Very
yeah,
nice. But that's the thing is in Arizona, and talk a little bit about if we can get Hobbs out of here and get Andy Biggs in, if we get rid of Hobbs, Mays, and Fuentes, which are all three so dangerous for our state. We've seen the downward trends and how awful it's become. If we can get them out, how nice will that be for you guys not to have everything vetoed?
that would be nice because we'll be able to get some things done. She was up to 70 something details or maybe more on
Wow.
that. And a lot of that was more partisan issues than anything else. When we're talking vetoes on water rights, we're talking well rights, we're talking road constructions, are cutting back on DPS pay. DPS right now, their pay 2 years ago went up 10%. We wanted to bring it up to 20, at least 25, to bring parity across the country. And she only would go up 10%. And she can do that because the DPS organization, agency, falls under the executive because they are part of her budget. And then when we send these budgets up to help, men and women in law enforcement, so on and so forth, she'll veto them, and I know that Congressman Biggs, hopefully Governor Biggs, he understands the state process. He was president of the Senate when he was here, of the House Senate of the state Senate, and he understands the need. He understands the border. He understands our elections and what we need protections on. And he brings that experience, some of that experience from D.C. So life would be a lot easier if we did have him up there. However, the double-edged sword on that, we could get Andy Biggs up there. However, we could lose the House or the Senate if folks don't get out and vote.
And see, you know what you're mentioning is a big point here. We all need to show up in November. Oh my gosh, so important, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. 75% of registered voters did not vote in the primary. We have 1.5 million registered Republicans. And of that 1.5, we're looking up towards 68% didn't vote. Registered voters
Wow.
did not vote. So we're looking at some real close numbers here that when a voter says that their vote doesn't matter, it certainly does matter because it's, we're talking, Andy Biggs' last election before he went to Congress, what was 5 votes
Yeah.
or what have you. So it's important that folks get out and vote, or we're going to lose.
Right.
We'll lose one of the chambers, and then we're stuck with Hobbs, or we're stuck with the situation that we're in.
Yeah, it's awful, and we need to clean this all up. I mean, all the way. You
We
just
do.
look at the history before Hobbs, and I mean, if Hobbs, the things she's doing to our state trust lands, signing these 100-year leases, and she's
Yeah.
overlooked our water problems. Oh my gosh! And those
Yeah,
negotiations.
exactly. And now we're trying to catch up. I know that Representative Griffin, who is going over to the Senate now, she's a big push in that. I appreciate her leadership in that. She's been pushing back on the lack of, I would say, laser focused leadership that should be coming out of the executive on those water issues. And she has, we're like, hey, why aren't you concerned more about our water, but you're looking at all these for example, you and I were talking about that subsidies and tax credits for renewables. You
Right.
know,
Yeah,
she's
80% tax credit that Governor Hobbs gives, these big wind farms and everything. And even our Board of Supervisors mentioned, hey, everybody should be on an even playing field. That 80% tax credit, that's millions and millions and millions of dollars. That needs to be taken away from these big wind turbines that are still threatening us up here,
yeah,
and solar
yeah.
fields. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm against any type of tax credit when we're talking about big industry like that. We should be able to attract industry into Arizona because of the lower TPT. When we're talking per capita across the country. We are one of the lowest when we're talking about TPT. Um, uh, Dollars going back into our state than any other state in the union. So why we need to give these tax credits to some of these folks to come in, it doesn't make sense, number one, to me. And number two, it's not an even playing field because they're giving bigger organizations these bigger tax cuts or these subsidies, and they are not doing the same for some of the mom and pops.
Right, right. And one of the biggest reasons people need to show up too, in my estimation, all the parents out there, I mean, the ESAs, the tax credit. I mean, we're very blessed up here in the White Mountains to have incredible public schools, right? We have great public
Yeah.
schools here. But statewide, I mean, I have grandchildren down in the valley that their parents all use the ESA, money to take their kids to great, great, great schools, right? Because where they
Yeah.
live, they do not have good schools. And we really need that vote is going to be a big one.
Exactly. That is a big one, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's not being talked about. And that proposition is going to drive Democrats to the ballot. And with that proposition on the line, ESA is on the line. Then you have the governor's election that's on the line. They want to keep control of the executive. You are going to see more Democrats come out to the ballots, and that's why people have to get to the ballot. They have to, or send their ballots in. I've been talking about this on my live feeds for a while now, and it just I hope that people are hearing this from your radio station, from what we're talking about on the street, and it's
Yeah.
not enough just to be registered. You have to exercise your civic
Right.
responsibility,
And
and that is to go and vote.
that's the big thing. And for as far as for our schools and everything, Kimberly Yee will be running for that position. And
Yes.
everybody needs to, get her in. It scares me to death if the Democrats get in there and try to take these. I mean, we've been a great example for the whole country. And yes, everything needs to be fine-tuned, run a little bit better, right?
Hmm.
But that program is so important to so many parents.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, you know, we have to maintain, as you know, our public schools. That's according to Article 11 in our Constitution, Section 1, that the legislature, we have to maintain that. The reason why I say that is because per student, there are more dollars that go to public school students than there are dollars going to ESA students. Some folks would disagree with that. However, I'd ask them to look at the numbers on those things. However, if we do away with ESA because of this proposition, and a parent is forced to send their child to a school that may not be doing too well, not to say the teachers are doing bad, but it could be a lack of supply, so on and so forth.
Right.
Why are we forcing that parent, because of an ideology or a political fight, to send their kid or set their kid up for failure? And why are we not compensating teachers according to the work that they do,
I
and
agree
not on
too.
a,
Yes.
yeah. So I think, um, it's a lot at stake for this election year.
Yeah, so everybody needs to show up. It's so important, and you've done so much for our veterans in the state, and I know you'll continue to serve in that capacity too down at the state capitol.
Yeah, I'm proud to have our property tax bill passed for veterans. So if a veteran is under any type of disability, the veteran gets that much off of their their property tax. If a veteran is 10% disabled, according to the VA, then they get that 10% off of their tax, and there's no income cap, and that was a non-starter for me. So we were able to get that for veterans. Also, we were able to get tuition waivers for dependents of veterans. A lot of times, kids or veterans will retire in other states that offer that, and we've seen that there's a revenue increase in the areas that they retire in, particularly Texas. And an increase in veterans retiring in Texas because they have these type of programs for veterans. It's not a handout. Some folks may think, well, veterans are getting a handout. It's not a handout. It's what we owe these veterans for the service that they gave. And I am working on a project this year to apply that same method to our law enforcement. A lot of times our law enforcement folks retire or they leave the force for whatever reason, and they don't have the money or the opportunity to send their kids to a public university, and I want to work on something like that.
Yeah, that would be great too. And also looking at some of the things up here, our forest management and some of that. You'll be working on things that have to do with that, right? Maybe some more biomass, maybe some things that can loosen the grip from the environmentalists, like suing all the time, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to run my fire mitigation bill again this year. I ran it last year, and that addressed many of the issues that we see with our fire. We're in fire season right now. It addresses those issues. Also, it puts some guardrails around how the environmentalists are suing. They're suing our state as well over things that are mishaps on their end. I also want to take a look at our private contractors when they are fighting fires. Are they being overlooked for contracts?
Yeah.
We have a lot of folks out there that that can make a fire. They're closer to a location to put those fires out. However, some of the contracts that are out there go to other states.
Yeah. And that's that's something that has to be looked at for sure. And also, I want to mention too, our hunters, everybody's been up in arms over all this wolf situation and all this. And they call attention to, in the late 80s, there were 86,000 deer tags and licenses put out, right? This year, 39,000. Because see, the predators and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. But on one hand, they can let endangered species be hurt, like the black-footed ferret over the lava run thing because of the wind turbines, right? They'll allow that and look the other way on the Green New Lie. But then when it comes to wolves, so there's some really creepy stuff, and also with the mountain lions and everything else that that the Forest Service and some of that. I don't know, DeVos. I don't know. Just a little weird.
Well, and that's, we're a sovereign state, even though the federal government has about, over 50-something% of our land. Let us manage that. Mm-hmm. If they were able to give back a portion of our land where some of these wolves are, or some of these fires start, or what have you, if they're allowing us to manage our lands, give it back, manage our lands, we could do a much better job than the federal government. We already know that they're failing miserably when it comes to rural Arizona, our forestry, the wolf issue, the gray wolf issue.
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. We already know they're failing.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
and this lawfare, again, from the environmentalists, it's just awesome. Well, we are out of time for today, but Walt Blackman, so thrilled for you and happy that you called. And I know you're going to be accessible. You'll call me and keep me updated with everything going on, right?
Absolutely. And as we get closer to the session, we'll continue to work together. You and I will continue to work together, get the word out. And I encourage people to log on to my live feeds, and so they can be engaged. And
how do they find those? How do they find those?
All they need to do is go to my Twitter, Walt Blackman, X Twitter, my Facebook, Walt Blackman. It's all the same. You can catch me on YouTube. And you can catch some of those episodes on LinkedIn, believe it or not.
Okay.
So
awesome.
I push out plenty of information for folks to be able to make informed decisions about voting. And by the way, I have this Thursday, I have another live feed, and we're going to be talking about getting out to vote and getting out there and voting.
Good.
So we can get Andy
and let's be and we'll be talking about that. You can call me between now and November for sure. Get everybody out there.
Absolutely.
And you guys can register to vote right now if you're not registered. If you have an 18-year-old, right up to the election day. If he turns 18 on election day, get registered.
Yeah. My daughter actually voted for the first time in her life this year. She was extremely excited about it.
That's so cool. All right, our District 7 Representative, Walt Blackman, thank you so much for calling in.
No problem, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Okay, Walt, you take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Keep it right here, everyone. iTalk 106.7 FM, the voice of the mountain.